Hey guys, how's it going? It's 108 degrees out today. You can probably tell that I'm already breaking a sweat just standing here. I did get my necessary watering done for this time of the day. Typically with things in the greenhouse or, a few potted things that we have sitting aside for projects later on, we have to water early in the day and then we have to go back through in the evening and just double check everything and make sure nothing needs a little bit of extra help in this kind of heat. It's been 107, 8, 9. It said one of the days was supposed to get to 110. I'm not sure it got there. I think 109. Does it really matter? 109, 110. It's too hot. And you can only take so much of that before you're just kind of done. And I think today I'm done with it and I don't want to do any garden projects out here except for we are going to head out to the cut flower garden. I am going to pick some strawberries. We're going to make a strawberry pie and I also want to pick some flowers. It's totally the wrong time of day. We're like late morning right now. You should cut flowers like first thing in the morning before the sun, really ideally before the sun comes up or as it's coming up when it's cooler, but we're just gonna go with it. I kind of want to take my mom a bouquet of sunflowers, just something simple, but I want to go pick the strawberries. I don't know if I'll have enough for an entire pie, but I've been freezing batches of them all along and I know I have enough frozen in there. So either way, we're gonna do that today. There's Cheddar. How you doing, buddy? I've got my berry picking baskets and then a few vases I need to return to the cut flower shed. Oh, look at it out there. It just looks hot. I do think this is our last day of it though. The weather, it's supposed to cool off by tomorrow like 14 or 15 degrees, which means we're probably gonna get a crazy amount of wind this evening, but it said there's a small possibility of some moisture. That would be awesome. The poor potato vines, they have drip run to them. They're just so hot they wilt and then they pick back up. This, however, is looking awesome. Look at that. I swear things have grown just in the day or two since I walked you through this area. It's amazing. Our strawberries are right here. If you take a look in here, you can see a whole bunch that are ready to be picked. So we're just gonna work our way down the row and see what we can glean. Everything out here is pretty much holding up to the weather except for the tomatoes. They look a little bit sad. They are producing tomatoes and I expect once we have a cool down, they'll probably perk back up and look a little bit better, but they're looking a little stressed. They're kind of folding under the pressure of all the heat. They do this in order to minimize moisture loss, but they are producing. They're producing tomatoes all over. In fact, this sad looking Bonnie Best right here, I think there's a few in here. Yeah. So this first batch of strawberries are Seascape, which this is the first time I've ever grown this variety, and I've been really pleased with what they've produced. I mean, for first year plants, it's pretty incredible. Like the size of the berries. They are really sweet, really tasty. So that's been fun. Because I'm not sure I would have actually ordered these. You guys might remember these strawberries showed up as a surprise on one of my plant loads. There was 5 flats and there's 18, is that the right math? 18 4-inch strawberry plants per flat. And I wasn't really set up to plant the strawberries. I was going to build a raised bed to do that. But I just decided, well, they showed up, so we're gonna plant them. And it was 5 different varieties, only one of which I was familiar with. So anyway, it's been really fun to just kind of, have these things show up, have somebody else pick out the varieties for me, and then I get some experience with them. Look at that berry. That's amazing. There's some little guys too. They're not all huge. You can see we've got a crop of carrots right up above us there. These I planted last July and I'm letting them go to seed. They're Danvers. They're almost ready. Some of the flower discs are almost dry enough to harvest. Oh, that's weird. It's like a twin. There's no bugs in there. There's an artichoke from last year. How funny. So there's today's haul. We've been picking at least this many, if not more, every other day between this row of raspberries and the buried treasure strawberries that we have in those tubs, but I just picked those last night and froze those. So not quite enough for the whole pie once the tops are all removed, so we'll just pull the frozen ones out that I've been freezing all along. I did notice the jade beans are starting to produce pretty heavily. Those are right next door to the strawberries there. Yeah, I need to get out here when it's cooler. My goodness, there's a whole bunch of things to pick. Just a whole bunch. And we are also going to be focusing on potato harvest here pretty quick as well. The plants are starting to die back more in some spots than others, so I might give them just a little bit more time. Typically you want them all to look kind of like this, like flopping over, kind of like browning and yellowing leaves, but some of the plants still look pretty darn fresh. So anyway, it's pretty, we're getting closer. Okay, let's get a bucket of water, get some sunflowers, and get back inside. We're back inside where it's air conditioned. We're in the butler's pantry, so technically it's the kitchen on the old side of our house, so the side that was built in 1919. So the room we're standing in right now is over 100 years old, which is kind of cool. There's some really fun built-ins. I've showed you with this room before. Tad echoey in here. I suppose I could have taken all of this out to the studio. I just kind of felt like being in the house today. I do have some things going in the crock pot and I've got laundry going, so I'm kind of wanting to stay on top of all those chores today as well. So just a quick pan around the room. It's not super duper clean. I've got a couple of things I need to take out to the cut flower shed, but you can see the sink in here, my food dehydrator. It works really well up in here because when you're drying stuff, it does have a scent and I don't really care for the scent very much, so I like to dehydrate stuff up here. Panning this way, you can see the laundry room there, and then the built-in. So we've got our cocktail stash right here and down here, and then just decorative things. So there's lots of vases in here. I've got lots of different candles and such. Yeah, that sort of thing. And then over here, this is pretty cool. Look at this little cubby in here. Just like a little place to sit. It looks out at the weird tree face. And then in this spot, I've got the kids' easel. I've got this table, which I bought for Samantha, and it was like a little tiny bit too advanced. So it's staying up here. She actually comes up here and plays with it, though. At this point, I should probably pull it down. Anyway, so that's there. And then this is our giveaway tub when we have things like kids' clothes, and I've got some sheets and stuff that are brand new and that sort of thing. That's our donation pile. And the door leads us right back to the shade porch where we have the cute bistro. So we've got a menagerie of really beautiful things. I was just gonna do sunflowers and then I just kind of got carried away, you guys. So there's a mix. There's some sunflowers, there's some beautiful blue sweet peas, there's some dahlias in here, some really cool zinnias. We've got some blue statice, some blue delphinium. Look at these. These zinnias are just so striking. They're a Redmond super cactus. Some of them are really double, like fully double and really like mop head. And some of them come out like this, and I actually prefer these right here. Like, look at that. That's so cool. I love it. This is the vase we're using. It's actually an old candle holder that I cleaned out. So anyway, let's put some together. Okay, so typically when I'm starting a flower arrangement, I use some kind of a frog, which typically I'll use a piece of chicken wire. You know, you cut it like a square of it and then kind of wad it up in the, sort of a ball and pop it down in your vase, and it allows you to pop stems in, you know, in the little holes, and it keeps things in place. Or I'll use some willow branches or some kind of flexible branches where you take all the leaves off of them and you kind of just weave them into a sphere and pop them down in the vase. You want to make sure to remove all the leaves though, of course. But in this case, I've got so much stuff. I don't think I'm going to need a traditional frog. I'm just going to start with some of my bigger items, some of this stuff that's real branchy, and this will kind of create a network of whatever. A network of, what's the word? A network of branches, I guess. I don't know. It'll create structure down inside the vase without having to use any kind of frog. See how already just with those two branches, there's places for branches to slide down in and they'll stay put. And I'll add a few more of those types of things in. Plus I did cut a couple of dahlias that are multi-branch, which will do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep working on building this. I am gonna try to make it look good from all sides since this is going out to my parents' house. The arrangements I take out there typically are put right on the end of their kitchen counter where you see it from all different angles. So a lot of the ones that I do for our own house, I can design them from the back and not really worry about what the back looks like because it's always up against a wall typically. So it just needs to look good from, you know, front and side. So anyway, I'll just be spinning this thing around and working with all these blooms. I should have enough to create something really pretty, I think. Turned out super fun and full of color and variety. Oh my goodness. Just kind of a wild bunch. Lots of sunflowers, zinnias, dahlias. Now the zinnias is this one too. So this is a Cinderella lilac. Isn't that a pretty color? Some come out full, mop head like that, and some come out more single with a really prominent center. And then I love the addition of the blue delphinium, the blue statice, the blue sweet peas. And then the sunflowers are just all different colors. So really deep color, there's some kind of classic yellow, some pale yellow. And as we flip it around, you can see I actually used every last stem except for one of the delphinium stems because it was a little bit old. The flowers were starting to fall off of it. And so I'll probably grab a couple more zinnias on our way out, like right here. And then I want something else right here before we leave. It's crazy how many flowers you can use in such a small vessel. Crazy, that's beautiful, look at that. I think my mom will enjoy looking at this bright bouquet for the next week or so. Most of these flowers will last at least 5 to 7 days. The dahlias and sunflowers are the shortest lasting of all of them, so 5 to 7 days tops. The rest of them, zinnias, will last a long time, so long as you keep the water topped up and all of that. And then of course the statice will dry and look exactly like that for the rest of its life. It'll look just like every bit as blue and beautiful as it is today. Okay, we're gonna head down into the kitchen and start the strawberry pie. I already made the crust for this pie because I knew it needed to chill in the refrigerator for a couple of hours before we were ready to use it. You can see the beautiful sunflowers on the island here. Aren't those gorgeous? These are the Pro-Cut lemons. So they're a single stem sunflower. That's the only bummer part about them, is that you get one flower and then it's done. But they are pollen free, which means they aren't gonna make a mess wherever you put them. When you cut and bring them inside, when you have traditional sunflowers, they'll drop pollen all over underneath where they're at, And sometimes, like on a kitchen island, you don't really want your flours dropping stuff all over the place. So I just have been enjoying these so much. Benjamin and I cut these last night. And then I've got some beef stroganoff going in the crock pot right now for dinner tonight. And here is our recipe right here. I make the pie crust in my food processor, which I didn't even own one until last year. I finally bought one and I've only used it for pie crust. I haven't used it for anything else up to this point. I'm not sure that that makes it worth the cupboard space, but it sure is handy. It mixes together pie crust like really well. So I add in 2.5 cups of flour first. I spoon it into my measuring cups and then I level it off with a knife so it's not like packed in there. After that, I do 2 teaspoons of sugar is what the recipe calls for, but I do 2 mounding teaspoons plus a dash more because it's a dessert and I want it to be sweet. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. Once all of those dry ingredients are in the hopper, I pulse just a few times just to make sure they're blended. Then I grab my butter out of the refrigerator. I like to make sure it's just super cold. I do cut it into smaller pieces before putting it in the dry ingredients. 1, because it mixes easier and better, and 2, I can't get a whole bunch of butter down the little hole on top of the processor thing, the lid. Once it's all in there, I pulse just enough times until the mixture resembles peas. It's kind of like the butter has been crunched up into tiny little pieces and it's just coated in flour. And then I make my ice water mixture. So you put a 1/2 cup of water in a measuring cup and then put your ice cubes in, stir it around, and it will melt that ice. So then you take the ice out and pour out water until it's back down to a 1/2 cup of ice water. And then I pour it in kind of like a tablespoon or 2 at a time. It typically takes the full 1/2 cup, and that's about it. You can add a tiny bit more if you need to. The mixture still won't come together in the food processor. What I do after that, after the water is mixed in, I put a little bit of flour on the counter, pour out the whole mixture, and then just kind of gently put it together into a disc or a ball. And it typically comes together really easily. There's not a whole lot falling off of it. Then I take a knife and cut it in half so that I've got my top and my bottom piece. I put them in Saran Wrap, put them in the fridge. So that's where I'm at this point. Then for our filling, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice and 6 cups of frozen strawberries in a saucepan. Then in a separate bowl, we are gonna mix a 1/2 cup of cornstarch and 1 cup of sugar together. And then we'll pour the dry ingredients over the strawberries and just mix them all together in that saucepan. Then we'll cook them over about medium heat, medium high-ish heat for about 15 minutes until the berries start to soften. And then we'll kick the heat up to high, let them boil for 5 minutes, bubble and simmer for 5 minutes. Then we will remove them from the heat, let them start to cool while we prepare our crust. So let's get our filling done real quick. Okay, we've removed it from the heat. It looks perfect. Look at that. It thickened up beautifully. We're gonna let it sit over here for just a few minutes while we prepare our pie crust, and it can cool off just a little bit. This part is pretty easy. We're going to roll out our bottom pie crust, put it in our pie dish, put the filling in, and then we'll create a lattice top. On top of the filling, I already have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. We will bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes, rotating it halfway through. So it's like the back right of our oven bakes faster. And so it's a good thing whenever instructions tell me to rotate things, it just reminds me that it's an especially good idea for me to rotate things because our oven is just, I can't wait to get a new oven one day. All right, let's get this done. goodness, you guys, it's so pretty. Look at that. I did have to bake it a little bit longer than normal, so I put a crust guard thing over the edge so that the outer part didn't get too brown. And these are done. They didn't put on a lot of color though. I just didn't want to overcook it, but it looks beautiful. Now that the pie is done and the flowers are done, I'm gonna let the pie cool for a little bit while I make dinner, and then we are gonna head out and make our delivery.
How's it going?
Good.
What's up, big
Hello. Oh, your dinner smells good.
Come on, look at that.
That sunflower looks like it's missing some teeth.
Kind of pales in comparison to what I've been doing.
Look at me.
Look at you, dude. Charles Atlas. Do you remember that name?
Next week I'll probably put, next week I'll put,
And I was like, what is that? What is that? Okay.
friends with all your other animals here.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, here we go. Ooh,
It's a keeper.
that's good. And that is going to do it for our video right now, guys. I'm really happy with everything today, and it was a really nice change of pace to be outside for just a short amount of time picking flowers and fruit, and then coming inside and enjoying the rest of the day in the air conditioning. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.